and welcome to the first and last word poetry series. And tonight we have Charles Cole and Harris Gardner reading for us, and they will be followed by a short open mic. Harris Gardner is the author of Chalice of Eros, co-authored with Lainie Senechal, No Time for Death, and two chapbooks, Least They Become and Among Us. He is editor of Ibbetson Street Press, co-founder of Tapestry of Voices and Boston National Poetry Month Festival with Lainie Senechal from 2001 to 2021. He is co-host of this venue and the recipient of several awards and citations, including the Sam Cornish Award from the New England Poetry Club in 2023. And I give you Harris.
Thank you, Gloria. I usually start my readings with somebody else's poetry. So there's two tonight. The Second Coming by William Butler Yeats. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-timmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming, hardly other words out when a vast image out of spiritus mundi troubles my sight. Somewhere in sands of the desert, a shape with lion body, the head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun is moving its slow thighs, while all about it real shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know the 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. In what rough beast its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born? That was written by Yeats in 1919 after the Russian Revolution, but I think it's timely even for today. My next poem is just as well known to everybody, is called Ozymandias by Shelley. Anyway, I met a traveler from an antique land who said, two vast and trunkless legs stand in the desert. Near them on the sand half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tells that its sculpture well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped in these lifeless things, the hand that marked them, the heart that fed. On the pedestal the words appear, my name is Ozymandias, look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boneless, boundless and bare, the lone and level, the sands stretch far away. Oop, tripped me up a little bit on that one, but I won't tell anybody. Anyway, the next one is echoes of that. It's called The Song for Humankind. Now the scent of hope's perfume permeates a land formerly afflicted by steady drip of sheer despair. Feeble light had flickered in noisome gloom. Ominous clouds had augured ill for the lingering life of liberty. Then sunburst swords sliced through nightmare's twisted knot that was threatening freedom's voice. Now the tyrant's impaired statues that tottered on crumbling foundations topple to resounding ovations. Nothing remains except defaced heads that once commanded multitudes to gaze upon his works with awe and masked dismay. Now these artifacts are displayed to jocund jeers. Where once a country was sinking into a fog of loathing and fear, now throngs are poised to proceed in parades of joyful song, altogether a great new day of elation and celebration, and is pealing the harmony of promise. So sing a song of brotherhood and sisterhood, a song for humankind. Okay, so I'm a little bit optimistic, sue me. And it's, again, a reflection of what the spasms that the country is going through on a day-to-day basis. This is sort of an anti-war poem. It's called Almost a Poet. Once upon a clock in a wound down time, tick-tock, an hour stabbed to shadow, nibbled and nicked by razor seconds that flowed through a slit in its fabric. Tick-tock. A bullet built a nest in a young soldier's brain, a youth so certain of forever. Tick-tock. Only the old volunteer Letfoot breaks the call, halt to breath. Tick-tock. Death's surprise etched his eyes, strange to find a wildflower field to nevermore. Tick-tock. In his mud-caked pockets, the medics found half-finished poems, verses penned in a dim light's halo. Tick-tock. No closure, no end. Tick-tock. Unless a home flared a window of a soul with compass wings to dress new stanzas in bone and flesh. Tick-tock. Tick. Okay, so where are we? Okay, this other one is a favorite chestnut of mine. It was written in response to Galway Connell's attending the reading of a poet's will. And my poem is called Sneak Peek of a Poet's Will. Item, verses nurtured on marrow from singing bones under layers of dust. Item, stanzas dressed in flesh from the heart, draped in surplus brain pulsations, wrapped in packet with blood-red ribbon. Item, excess of bottled tears sprinkles pavement, grows roses that bite when one stops to inhale. Item, minds borrowed or stolen, nudge blank minds in bold directions, serve fresh on special occasions, bury stale thoughts separately. Item, crumpled bag, home to a few nibbled on metaphors, most emotions spent, some wisely, relish the remnants. Item, the desk that birthed overburdened pages can be left to no one. It labors without complaint when images gallop off the pages, become ingrained in splinters and stains The legs wobble, speak with creaks, unwritten versions. Item, volumes of verses captured in accurate tone, napkins and other inspired fragments thrown in drawers for the moment. This is not the final statement, premature to lament unwritten passions. Volumes will increase, collections bound. The will be done. So, okay. This one is sort of a tongue twister. It's called Inconvenient Baggage. The was a while ago. It was not a happy was, because no one wanted to be taught by was. They thought will be a promise, more or less. Was neglected, abused. First drafts, tomes, and bridges fueled bonfires. Fuming was for naught. The postcards for posterity were a banquet for flames. Was became hoarse from shouts, diatribes, and vain endeavors to connect the end with less than perfect beginnings. Was rattled and lurched to mute. The embers of was reduced heating bills. Leftover words became prophecy. Was stuck in third gear. Now is a stoplight, the future, a bruised suitcase on the carousel and baggage claims. So this one is called Stopwatch. I have to attribute to the Wilson Fulcrum. Let's start by shedding all the odd years, then take a match to all the evens, slice and dice all the minutes until they bleed white, pound in a block to slow the growling gears, mortar and pestle the grinding seconds, blunt their bite, smash all the clocks, yes, the craven cuckoos too. Fast forwarding the film frames few regrets, though the mirror shows the sweep hand rounding your face. There is no crystal case to hold your works. It's not time's business to offer you perks. The crushing RIP tide crinkles your crown. Worn out, you may drown, still in the shallows. Your mind stores snapshots, both fuzzy and clear. Photo albums freeze mortality's stare. The lens is keen, it sees what it sees. The present deep cleans in a crusted past, then polishes it to a pristine sheen. Future scenes left alone develop on their own. Pare away the wrinkled pages, strip bare temporal confusion. Vanity's illusion brooms the dust. Search the phases of your soul. Find the last clock, make it whole. When the keeper sleeps, he loosens control. No excuses, but I had an injection in my eye today, so I'm reading with one eye. So anyway, hold on one second. Okay, this one is a Villanelle. It's sort of autobiographical. It's called Until the Last Recorded Dime. And that this was in Main Street Rag. When you have been broke a very long time, you forgo the champagne but not the beer. Such is life when you live from dime to dime. Ears are deaf to complaint, you play the mime. You look in the mirror and face down fair when you have been broke a very long time. You must defer to your reason and rhyme. To make the ascent, you shift to first gear. Is never easy, life from dime to dime. You can't stop the hands, the clock tolls the chime, so you grin and concoct a mask of cheer when you have been broke a very long time. Your efforts ease you into the sublime. You move to the beat only you can hear. You adapt when you live from dime to dime. Each day you wash away more of the grime. Your mind is full, but your focus is clear. You manage to manage after time. No more holding your breath from dime to dime. And this one is kind of influenced by Emily Dickinson. Anyway, if any echoes are mere coincidence. It's called Pass This Way Another Day. I set my watch 20 minutes fast to be consistent with my rounds. Perhaps, too, it may confuse the chauffeur who cruises in the black limousine. He makes a turn to double check addresses in his infernal calendar. I peek out behind half-closed blinds. My shoo is the charm against the day when my clock's battery runs down. The cuckoo dreams in black and white, flecks peel from his painted body. I sip my mango margaritas, savor every drop, celebrate life for yet another summer. Perhaps sunglasses help my youthful disguise. Hopefully my fate is not a chiseled date. No rush, I can wait, even if I'm late. Pass by, dark harvester, do what you must, but as for me, just pass. A lot of cheerful poems tonight. Anyway, I'm gonna watch the clock. Give me a minute. Okay, I'll do one more. So this one is about an ailment. It's called addiction. It does not seem to be a sound solution to make a New Year's resolution to cure my aggravating albatross addiction. It may be rather facile prediction that sweets will determine my termination on my Tootsie Pop terra firma. Hello, I am. Who are you? My anonymous name tag boldly declares me to be a chocoholic. I've paced and retraced the 12 exact steps to the kitchen cabinet where the cocoa treats are stored. My affliction is ironic, like being gored by a bull in a colorful candy kiosk. Mounds of mint Girl Scout cookies have mounted a retreat. I am beginning to tremble like a milkshake in a blender. I grope for the last bar of Godiva. Gone, my barren cupboard marks me. Chocolate chips were preemptively chucked into a forgotten waste bin. Brownies have staged their last stand, no crumbs even to sustain a mouse. The final tinsel kiss slid down the chute of my tongue. Its echoed sigh resounded in its ultimate meltdown. And Lord, protect me from the temptation of Siren Reese's Pieces. Shall I venture then to make a visit in my voracious quest to the convenience store? Maybe just a pint of fudge swirl ice cream. My chocolate dreams are becoming nightmares. Dare I go and dare I go, cold turkey. That should be the golden key to my guided future recovery. Perhaps now just a wee flute of chocolate liqueur. This year I resolve to indulge no more in my holy grail pursuit of face your demons chocolate, even if to the sound of sacred music the ultimate hot fudge sundae should rise from the deepest heated pit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harris. That was a very strong reading, and now you made me hungry for chocolate with that last poem. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And our next reader is Charles Coe. He's the author of 5 books of poetry: All Sins Forgiven, Poems for My Parents, Picnic on the Moon, Memento Mori, and Purgatory Road, all published by Leapfrog Press. He is an adjunct professor of English at Salve Regina University in Newport, Rhode Island, where he teaches in the MFA program. And I give you Charles.
Gloria, thank you so much. And Harris, thank you so much. Not just for this evening, but for everything you have done and continue to do for the poetry community. You're one of the hardest working dudes in the poetry business. So we love you and appreciate you. So I like the way you started reading the work of another couple of poets. So I'm gonna follow in your footsteps. I gave a talk yesterday up in Peterborough about poets as agents of social and political change, and I talked about how there are certain people, without going too deep down the rabbit hole of politics right now, who would like to scrub the words off the base of the Statue of Liberty. And I'm going to read the sonnet that contains those words. The sonnet written by Emma Lazarus, who was a fifth-generation Jewish American who took up the defense of persecuted Jews and began to work for the relief of immigrants of all backgrounds. This is the new Colossus. Not like the brazen giants of Greek fame with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shores. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Those words. And then we can't think and talk about poets whose work represented the the quest for change, for social and political justice and change. Can't talk about that without talking about Langston Hughes. Uh, Walt Whitman wrote a poem about it was I Hear America Singing, where he depicted the diverse workers contributing to America, but he excluded African American workers, and Hughes wanted to correct this oversight. So his challenge was I too, I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. So I'll start with my own stuff. This is Prelude. But before we begin, may I ask you a question? Would it bother you if at some point I forgot to remember the illusion that we are made of solid matter? That we instead consist of atoms and electrical charges or 99% empty space? Would it bother you to look through my suddenly spectral form and see the backrest of my chair? It wouldn't be intentional, a parlor trick. It's just that when I think about broken children lying in the rubble of bombed out buildings, I sometimes find it difficult to remain tied to this world. So if I seem to fade, please don't judge or be alarmed. Just hold out your hand. We can touch palm to palm to keep ourselves connected to this terrible and beautiful place. Remind us that we are made of the same stuff as the stars. And here's one for the season. This tomato. Tonight's dinner is a single tomato. A massive heirloom, ruby red, wrinkled, irregularly shaped, local, perfectly ripe, slick, sliced thick, sprinkled with salt. I never bother with tomatoes in the off season. Those billiard balls shipped cross country, picked green, gassed to turn them red. And when the good tomatoes are done, my tongue's attention turns elsewhere. When I was young and waved goodbye to friends who'd packed their lives into cars and headed on down the road, I always assumed I'd see them again someday. Some I never did, never will. I hope I'm here to greet next year's crop, but now I take nothing for granted. Tonight's tomato, this tomato, is an exercise in the ephemeral, a juicy, vined, ripened reminder of time's blinking eye. This is a difficult time for those of us of a certain age who struggled for so much social and political change and see so much of what we struggled for being rolled back. But we got to keep fighting. Every generation has to fight these battles in its own way, and our job is to to keep fighting, to keep inspiring our younger people, to keep writing, to keep making poetry, to keep finding and creating joy, because when we stop doing that, they've won. But that's a whole other conversation. But I was blessed to have a conversation with Ruby Bridges some time ago. And Ruby Bridges' story is not ancient history. I'm older than Ruby. And this, for us poetry Greeks, is an ekphrastic poem, a poem written to acknowledge another artistic medium, and in this case, Rockwell's famous painting of Ruby Bridges. So this is for Ruby Bridges. In the Norman Rockwell painting, Ruby Bridges, the problem we all live with. You are being escorted into the segregated school by federal marshals. We see four of them in the frame, two walking ahead, two behind, but we don't see their faces. You are the focus of the piece. A thrown tomato was smashed on the wall behind you. You walk straight ahead past the red guts dripping down and piled on the sidewalk, past the faint ghost of nigger painted on the wall someone tried with limited success to scrub away. Ruby, what can we possibly say about you? What words can describe this 6-year-old child, armed with only a notebook and ruler, walking resolutely past that pack of jabbering hyenas, past the woman who every day threatened to poison you, past the woman who every day threatened to wave before your face a black doll in a coffin. The lead marshal said you never cried once during that nightmare year. What can we possibly say about you? Brave as any astronaut, climbing into a tin can to be launched into the airless void. I think maybe I'll change the mood a little bit here. Is anyone familiar with the Blind Boys of Alabama, the gospel group? They're incredible if you've never heard them. They're these very elderly black gentlemen, and they're all blind, and they get led onto the stage by their friends and helpers, and they're incredible. I was privileged to see them last spring, and this poem is for them. This is Sanctified. When the blind boys of Alabama kick into high gear, a hole is ripped in the fabric of the universe through which you will tumble to find yourself in a storefront Baptist church in Selma, Alabama, with no air conditioning on the hottest day of the summer at Sunday service, where shouts pouring from the open windows are heard a block away, and Sister Hattie, whose magnificent hat is the love child of Mount Kilimanjaro and the Sydney Opera House, is fanning herself with one hand and with the other dabbing at the glow on her cheek with a lace hanky. So let's see, what else are we going to do here? This is okay. This my last book that came out a few months ago is this is New and Selected Works. It's kind of fuzzy. I'm kind of fuzzy. Anyway, there you go. Ta-da! It's 20 new poems and 20 poems from my first 4 books. And this is the last of the new poems, Nocturnal Admissions. Sorry for that title. It's a little tongue-in-cheek. Nocturnal admissions. Late at night, and I reluctantly shed the cocoon of blankets, rise once again to perform that task so familiar to man of a certain age, and afterwards look for a moment in the bathroom mirror at the battalion of wrinkles whose comrades wait patiently to join their ranks. I look at my hair, what's left of it, mostly white as a sheet of typing paper, then shut off the light and go back to bed to burrow once more beneath the covers. But as sometimes happens, sleep has climbed out the window, dropped quietly to the grass, and padded off barefoot into the night. At times like these, one's shortcomings and failures and disappointments can return to take their bows, projected on the ceiling, images on parade. I nod to each member of the troop, accept each judgment in turn. Some debts I can never repay. Some will never be repaid to me. But even though the list of things I thought I knew grows ever smaller, and the tang of ancient griefs still lingers on my tongue, I realize I've made peace with my past. And to my surprise, sleep returns. I awake to sun shining through the window, hear a mockingbird declare itself master of the universe. And now that my nocturnal ghosts have faded once more into memory and mist, I will rise to face this new day that stretches out before me like a ribbon of new highway. When I was doing my presentation, I was at this beautiful Unitarian Church in Peterborough yesterday. It's on the National Register of Buildings. It's just a gorgeous space. And I was asked about later at lunch, I was asked about my own religious proclivities. I was raised Irish Catholic. I was an altar boy, and I will now enter a church for a wedding or a funeral. I mean, that's just the way it is. But I was washing dishes one time, and this phrase popped into my head, butt dialing Jesus. And I'm thinking, like, what? So I had to write a poem, and this is Butt Dialing Jesus. There was a time when voices emanating from my pants would have caused concern. But now I just shrugged and pulled out my phone to hear a recording. You have reached the Son of God. I am currently speaking with another supplicant, but please hold. Your salvation is important to me. This was followed by music. I expected celestial choirs or maybe an elevator-friendly version of My Sweet Lord, but was instead treated to acoustic Delta blues guitar. And after a little while, the voice of himself greeting me by name and asking what I wanted. I was startled. I didn't expect to actually get through. What's the one true religion? I asked, flustered, just to have something to say. All of them, he replied. None of them. I was taken aback. What? That's it? That's it, he said. Follow the golden rule. Leave the campground cleaner than you found it. Look, anything else? I have a lot of people on hold. I had nothing else. Mumbled my thanks. He said, go in peace, and broke the connection. I put down the phone, stared out the window. That guy across the street was clearing snow off his sidewalk. I never really liked that dude, but I grabbed my shovel to go lend a hand. So I'm going to uh, I've been using a lot of Shakespeare in my teaching recently, and you can't go wrong with Shakespeare. So I'm going to share one of my favorite pieces from him. This is Sonnet 29, When in Disgrace with Fortune in Men's Eyes. When in disgrace with fortune in men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state. In trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate. Wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy, contented least. Yet in these thoughts myself almost despising. Happily I think on thee. And then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. And then this last piece of mine, I wrote many, many years ago, but it's still my response to people who say, well, everything's messed up. What's the point in trying? What's the point in trying? This is, if what you say is so. If what you say is so that this world's heart is cracked and crumbling, I should get ready for the coming round of gray days. I will stand before cracked mirrors, practicing dyspeptic scowls to flash at babies when their mothers' backs are turned. When children play outside my window, I will shout down curses like those dry old men who hate life because it reminds them of death. Will you then be satisfied when my eyes are covered with that thin, tough film that lets light neither in nor out? We can sit together then in a cozy little room and wiggle our toes before the fire and sip our tea and laugh at the fools who still believe that a life can be saved by one hand reaching for another.
Charles, that was incredible. And your first poem that you read of yours really got to me. All your work, it was just really, really incredible. Thank you. And Harris, thank you so much to both of you. What an incredible night. And now I'd like to open it for the open mics. Our first reader in the open mic will be Joyce. So go ahead, Joyce.
Okay. This is a poem that will appear in Ibbetson Street soon. It's based on a play on words, many plays on words, and also spelling about communication. When I said, did you hear? When I said emancipate, did you hear exterminate? When I said reconstruct, did you hear disinherit? When I said industrial, did you hear agricultural? When I said reassess, did you hear change address? When I said election, did you hear dissection? When I said laws, did you hear flaws? When I said blackguard, did you hear black code? When I said gumption, did you hear redemption? When I said citizen, did you hear Ku Klux Klan? When I said rebellion, did you hear rapscallion? When I said amendment, did you hear emolument? When I said constitution, did you hear retribution? When I said last, did you hear past? When I said changing, did you hear hanging? When I said hope, did you hear rope? When you said honor, did you mean corner? When you said better, did you mean terror? When you said bestowed, did you mean black code? When you said redemption, did you mean not to mention? When you said voting rights, did you mean dark nights? When you said damnation, did you mean recession? When you said confession, did you mean recession? When you said free for all, did you mean free for all? When you said liberty, did you mean hanging tree? When you said not recognized, did you mean disguised? When you said educate, did you mean segregate? When you said report, did you mean deport? When you said amity, did you mean colony? When you said recognize, did you mean colonize? When you said seize the day, did you mean arrest the slave? When you said relative, did you mean fugitive? When you said eloquent, did you mean sentiment? When you said farming, did you mean arming? When you said never, did you mean river? When you said reconstruct, did you mean disaffect? When you said court, did you mean short? When you said class, did you mean sass? When you said just cause, did you mean applause?
Thank you, Joyce. And our next reader is Holly.
Thank you. What a pleasure to hear Charles and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name. What a pleasure to hear both of you. This is old age. Um, Charles, when you read the sonnet on the Statue of Liberty, I was back in junior high school where we sang that sonnet, and it took me there. Thank you for that. And all the Harris, such wonderful poems about time and clocks and ticks and tocks and chocolates and oh, what a pleasure. Okay, great to see you both. Okay, this one is called Their Words, and is an epigraph. Gradually, I'm changing to a word. This is after Stanley Kunitz. 6 white shrouds lowered down, one beside the other, hold the journalists. They no longer breathe. The journalists reported from Gaza, worked hungry. Let the world learn. They no longer teach. Their tired eyes watch children's skeletal bodies, too weak to survive. They no longer see. We see the images they recorded. We see their words. They are carried by a crowd of men to the funerals. The imam prays over them. They enter another realm. The suffering wail. Grief scatters across continents. The white shrouds lay quietly. They see the mystery beyond. Their words break free, rise in the illuminating sun. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. And our next reader is Michael.
Thanks, Gloria. This is great and great readings. Good, so good to see Charles and Harris both, and to listen to this wonderful poem. Sonnet 29 is one of my favorite all time. So, and Holly, that was great. Grief travels across continents. Wow. My poem is going to be Down Beacon Street. It's a local poem. It does mention the Shaw Memorial uh, on Beacon Street, which also appears in Robert Lowell's poem, Ode for the Union Dead. But so down Beacon Street, it's like they've been painted by Norman Rockwell in an old newsboy's cap and galluses holding the baggy pants up around the billowing shirt. The parcel they're busy at has been delivered in brown packing paper and strict twine. Unbinding is the challenge of their age, youth and its wild undoing of found forbiddens. The red brick architecture of the street captures the imagination, What I'm seeing in the doorway with planters down from the State House, stringy legs in dark jeans blooming New Balances, in a tight tiger tone Vitten gradient tee. Their neck is bent, biting at the glossy seal of the bubble wrap package, a thoroughly 21st century scenario, less my business than the doorway cameras. What do I accomplish unwrapping their image in my poem? Why shouldn't I busy myself with my own doorway cam, downloading, editing onto YouTube? After all, from those first early cave paintings to Warhol's silk screen, what we continue to dig has become novel and ongoing, and anymore, the less effort in making or capturing a moment, the better. Even these lines I tap out are too long. And with everything so wrought and storied here in the original colonial government district, Bullfinch, Lafayette, Howe, why must I see this one thing I see, when the red pulse in my head is still throbbing with last night's news from Gaza? What can a person clawing through a package change about another Guernica? Through the iron fence across the street, even authorized by his memorial, ever riding off to war, Colonel Shaw will not be in time.
Thanks, Michael. And Tim, you are next.
Yes, thank you, Gloria. And I'm going to be careful and just say cheers to both of our main featured poets tonight and to everyone in the open mic. Hotel Odessa. On my first morning in Paris, I paused at my apartment window, holding a croissant and a mug of coffee and watching people go in and out of the hotel's entrance, convinced each one of them was a spy, good and bad. How the imagination of youth still clings at the age we should know better. Minutes later, I got fully clothed and made my way to the hotel's small lobby, hoping a man with a pronounced scar or a woman whose beauty is timeless would show me a folder and say, "You must get this to the American embassy in Prague by midnight." The impossibility and danger of the task making it divine. But I wound up sitting on a velvet chair, retying a shoelace, playing back in my mind the chance I might have had of saving some, perhaps of all the world. And when I left, I looked both ways down the street. Thank you.